Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to hit up talking about, I think, a pretty important topic that's centered around how are nodes doing right now, sentiment with them, and we're specifically talking DeFi as a service and nodes as a service. So your DOS and NOS projects, not the real nodes with real utilities, applications, and whatnot going on behind them. Want to see how sentiment is though for people because I can tell you the people that I talk to, they're not feeling too good about getting into a lot of these node projects that are out there right now, and I can't say as I blame them. This environment is very exploratory, working on a lot of innovation, but then you have all the other problems with, and we'll see some pictures here of the prices and how they affect people's sentiment. But they're right now trying to figure out how to innovate and work on sustainability, but then they're also affected by rugs. So all these things add up and changes people's sentiment, which I know if you're watching, you already know a lot of this, but I want to get into a little bit more depth here, and we'll do all that in today's video. We'll go ahead and skip the intro on this one. I'd like to just jump right in and look at this. So right now, I feel like we're still in Node Season 1 and starting up Node Season 2. And when I say Node Season 1, some of these nodes that are in there are launched in Node Season 1. I think they're trying to transition into Node Season 2, and I guess you might say we could already be in Node Season 3. So some of this is just my viewpoint on it and what I see going on. We'll look at all the prices and stuff in a moment, though, to actually verify a lot of this and how it looks like it impacts you. So just for the top layer, everyone got into Node projects, and it's been doing this since late last year, and even before that with Strong, with the OG in the house. Passive income was the name of the game there. It brought me in. I wanted that passive income because it's what draws everyone in. Of course, the unsustainable APRs, APYs, that's the other factor that plays into this, and it's why a lot of people get into these, right? So, all in all, I'm not saying all this is bad, but we're going to go into detail on obviously what the problem is, as if you don't already know about some of these issues, but how the new Node Season 2 or new Node projects, however you want to look at it, how they're trying to fix all of this and actually become really sustainable, the real sustainable, we'll call it, and not just throwing out a project that doesn't have a true long-term roadmap that actually can sustain itself. So as we go forward, of course, I'll look at the price and we'll look at some of these projects that would have existed before, and we'll mention some of the upcoming projects that at least I've looked at or have been interested in because I think they're actually trying to build more innovation and use case out of the project so they actually last. So we're first going to look at the OG Strong. Now, preface, I'm not in Strong, so I have no horse in this race. I have a general understanding of what they're doing here. But so my point is, we're going to look at the initial Strong when it first happened, when it came out, and try to go back a little ways with that as far as the price range and how it maxed out and all that. So let's follow this path up. This is a term I didn't make up. Your friend Andy has mentioned this several times. The node mountain, you can see it hits up at that peak. So climbs on up, hits that peak. And in this case, Strong actually had a small boost, nowhere near the peak before, but then a continued down. So that aspect of most node projects hit this. And again, this is not looking forward with Strong and where they're going with Strong Chain and Stronger. So the new token. Anyways, we're not looking at all that. We're just looking at the original node viewpoint that a lot of these projects have. So looking into this, you can see the path of all these node projects. So let's hop on over to Thor. A lot of people jumped into Thor early. This was my first node project that I actually got into early on in my learnings in this environment and trying to understand everything going on. I definitely had some FOMO set in. I unfortunately didn't get the great price that a lot of people got into. However, again, Node Mountain, this one was a very, very different viewpoint. So I actually came in and I got in along back in here-ish. So somewhere back in here, still got in at a decent price point, you might say, but further down the chain, and then it went back up and everybody's happy, right? But then that node mountain came off again. So, the same picture for all of these as you look at these. And these are just a couple examples. There are a lot of node projects that work this way. There's a lot of node projects that haven't even lasted this long that I've released. But Vapor is another example of this. And so I'm not, just preface, I am not putting these down as projects. That is not the point here. Just realize I'm showing these for examples for a price point. So the same thing with Vapor here. You can see the big run up with all the buy pressure. and then you see some sell and some more sells, at least as far as pressure, and dropping that price down again and back down to where we are today. Now, this is the last one I want to show you for right this second. So the whole point of this is all of these projects in my mind, they just don't have additional use cases going on for these tokens. So they have nowhere else to go. They have no revenue generation that doesn't exist right now, at least as of the making of this. If they do, don't fault me. It's not enough, is what I'll say right now, to sustain. They're all using that word we love, ponzinomics. So I know you already know this, but just to recap, ponzinomics is just a general idea that all the people that got in early are making their profits off people that join later, so they're paying them back as it goes. And at some point, it can't sustain because you have to have continued buys over time. Now, you can go back to strong. Strong is just like its name said, over time was the big daddy by itself, and that's, in my opinion, that's a lot of the reason that this project worked the way it did and lasted as long as it did. I think as more people have spread across different node projects, even less maybe have gone into Strong for various reasons. They're putting money into other projects or not putting as much money into Strong and so forth. And I think that affects things. So, of course, with Ponzinomics, if you don't have enough buy pressure, that sell pressure is going to eat up at that token price, and that token price is going to automatically lose value. So, again, I think this is node season one. And I don't think these projects have enough outside of Ponzinomics to sustain themselves at this moment. Now, they are working on sustainability, but it's not there yet. So, Strong's got its stuff in work. They're trying to push over to create the Strong chain, which is, of course, going to bring in additional revenue. THOR right now is working on their pay to earn. Now, that doesn't mean that's all they have, but they have additional things that they're working in their project. Again, this is not going to be a top cover and a bunch of information on the projects. I'm hitting high points here so we can get through this discussion. Vapor, of course, is working on Vapor Chain as well as other areas for themselves as well. Now, these are examples where these node projects are trying to move on to other revenue streams so they can actually sustain and pay their node holders. Now, this is again a case where these node projects are moving out of that original Ponzinomics. We'll call it node season one, and the idea that they don't have additional use cases, they're trying to move over to node season two, or at least that's what I'm calling it, and trying to find use cases, additional revenue generation so that they can actually pay back node holders as well as provide additional impact with their influence that they have, whether it be a chain or just the nodes themselves. Now, I left out Comb. Comb is a big one. Comb is actually one of the ones that I believe has actually shown some pretty good examples of their use cases. They've already moved over to the new tokenomics as well, and I'm a little more familiar with them than I am Strong, so I feel more comfortable talking to them. So the fact that they've moved over from Comb and they've already stopped providing their nodes, so you can't even get those anymore. Of course, that's an impact on Comb, but then Zcomb came out to give you revenue basically from the projects, so you earned along with them was a pretty innovative case that they put into place so that they could actually be more impact and another use case for people to come into the Comb ecosystem. And now, even more so, now they have pods that will actually pay you back in Bitcoin or Ethereum or the like there. I do like that project a lot. I think that they're doing some pretty innovative things there. And so that pod side is boosting up Comb, and you can see Comb has come back big time in price. So that's just an example of another good project that I think is finding those additional improvements in areas to bring other use cases for their ecosystem, and they just continue to explore that and move in different ways to build more reason for you to get into that ecosystem long term. So as we move forward, there's more node projects coming, and so Horde is going to be my last example here. I'll mention some additional ones, but I just want to show you Horde and the chart here. So let's move over here now. So here we are with Horde. You can see their price. Now, this is one of those projects that's doing something different. They have additional use cases coming, but I want to show you here where they started off. So literally this line doesn't connect, but the idea is, of course, it started way down at like 10 bucks uh, and then ramped all the way up very quickly. You're talking minutes. So this is a good use case of how they built out their infrastructure to alleviate that buy and sell pressure straight in the tokenomics. So this price has stayed consistent. You can see the range here. I've already done a video on this, which go check it out. I'll have the link right up here. Go check out Horde. I have two videos you can look at on them. Pretty cool project. I like what they're doing with the price action. So they actually have termed this part of their protocol with the price range control that they're doing. And so you can see it sits there between a range. And so as buys happen, they'll actually implement some sells to correct that price action so it doesn't go above a bounds. And it's a price range bound protocol. So originally it was pegged to be between 95 and $105, and now they've actually boosted that up. So you can see it's remained very consistent, and you can see the boost happen right back here. I believe this was this past Monday. I don't have the calendar right in front of me, but anyways, you can see it boosted, and it's actually maintaining very well, closer to 110, $111 right now. So, anyways, this is a project that's actually looking at other methods to control that price. Now, long term, they're actually going to be moving into selling some NFTs that actually play into their pay to earn game that's coming later on, I think third quarter. So, they're looking at other use cases as well. Pay to earn's an awesome place to go. Thor is also trying this out. So, there are all sorts of ways that these projects are moving in different ways based on the past with these nodes, and they've seen how they've done in other projects. They all know that they have to do something if they want to be long-term sustainable. And really, long-term sustainable is not just 2 months for everyone getting into this for passive income. Now, I'll throw that out there. I'm not telling you that you can't make money in these projects. None of this is financial advice, by the way. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a dude making videos on the internet to give you some education on content as much as I can research and provide. But anyways, so they're looking at ways to actually make this really sustainable. But you can make money off of these projects by getting in early in a lot of these. In a lot of cases, if you get in early, if you have a whitelist, you often can do well. But is that really how you want the project to go? Because those people that join in a month later are often providing some of that payback to those original investors. And so those people often don't make their money back. I don't want that for anyone. I don't want it for myself. So I want to see them actually innovate and find a longer term path for all of this stuff we're getting into. And again, passive income. My I guess my endpoint on this is this really passive income? So this is not a good example here, but vapor, for example, you gotta sell, you gotta sit there and monitor. And I mean, for some people this isn't a big deal, but there's nothing passive about these projects at this point. You have to monitor this price action. So you can go back here and look at this. Well, let me find the high point that it hits that day, or maybe the project comes in and does a big buy to raise the price action on vapor, for example, and you're just hoping that it happens. You got to monitor and you got to know when to sell or to hold your tokens or to compound. So my point is, I'm adding this in. None of this is really passive. We all want to see when this environment becomes real passive income that we don't have to monitor constantly. So as we move into this, I guess where I'm going with this is there are new projects coming out that are actually providing additional use cases now as a part of this new breed of node projects. Whether you're burnout or not, just throwing that out there. There's a lot of node projects that I'm in right now that, of course, some I got into late, and that's just my fault for not having known more than I did when I first started out in this environment. Uh, but I'm sure there's some that everyone watching this video has also done the same with, and you're just wondering, when am I going to get my money back out? So Thor is a good example of this. I'm just waiting for pay to earn to hit to see if that actually is going to sustain them and raise that price back up. I hope it does. There's no guarantees in this world for any of this stuff. And with all this, only invest what you can afford to lose. So as we move forward and we look at this new node season, we'll talk about that now. Let's just say Horde is part of that new node season since I just showed the chart on that. But there are new projects that I'm going to be reviewing soon or have already looked into. You've got everything from Lava Financial, which is adding some pretty cool stuff in. So they're adding use cases immediately with the project launch in order to sustain and actually have a path from the very get-go. They know that they can't sustain high prices. So let's just list out some of the things that I see that these new node projects are doing from the very get-go. Some of the key points that I say are important for you to look at and stuff that I'm going to be looking at in all my videos as I go forward, whether that be just innovation, what type of innovation, what they're doing for sustainability. So let's cover those. So I say the very first thing that you want to look for, like I just mentioned, is innovation. What are the projects doing different from what's already out there in order to sustain? So, in this case, Horde innovated by their price range protocol, and that basically let them stay into a consistent range. So, that actually directly affects sell pressure because there's no reason for people to come in and try to buy at the super low peak and then sell when it hits a peak. So, indirectly, they're seeing nice positive action on their project. People see it, immediately go, wow, this is a project that's actually staying consistent. It feels like passive income. And I'm not telling you that's going to work forever. I can't answer that. But right now, what they're doing is very effective to this long term view. And then when they branch over to the use case of the pay to earn, that's just another layer. So that's one example of innovation that I can throw out there. I'd say number two that I'm looking for is literally sustainability out the gate. And what does that mean? So if I look at a project now, like when we go back to Thor or even Strong, those insane gains that you would make to where this is not necessarily a number per day, but if you could recoup your tokens or your investment within 15 to 30 days, you already know that you have a problem for the long term view of this project. No project is going to be able to jump right in without getting some sort of revenue generation and actually sustain itself. It's just not realistic. So, a lot of these new projects that are coming out are promising, and I'm not going to tell you they're still long term sustainable with these, but they've severely, and severe in this case is not a bad word, don't mean it that way. They have, we'll say, drastically reduced their price that they're paying you per day to down 1%, a half a percent a day on what your investment is. That is a serious change in philosophy and viewpoint on their runway, and then they just have to have the next step of use cases and revenue generation in some sense. So, again, number two, sustainability out the gate is huge, I think. So, number three, this is not really exactly the same thing since they tie back into what we're already talking about because innovation could be this too. But I'm just going to say use cases. What is the project doing besides ponzinomics? So innovation is one thing, but then are they actually providing additional use cases for their tokens? Or in some cases, now you have projects that actually take away their initial token that is used to buy the nodes, and now they have a secondary token that they use for additional things to take sell pressure off of the first token. All sorts of stuff like that's happening. But do they have another project that they're putting in their ecosystem that is also going to provide the pay to earn, as the example for Horde or for Thor? That is an additional use case that will drive in profits to boost up the token that they use or tokens in some sense. So, all sorts of use cases these projects could come up with. They're doing it now for a lot of these projects that I'm reviewing. They're bringing in gamification, they're bringing in chains, for instance. Of course, Vapor is actually looking at building its own chain to generate revenue. Great additional use case. Now they have to actually implement that and be successful to draw projects in to hop on the chain. But all of those are very promising, and it's where we see a lot of these projects heading. That's what separates to me all those node projects you see popping up, and they're it seems like almost every day there's one popping. That's what separates those that you see and you look at that post on Twitter or whatever, and you dive in and you realize their tokenomics are out of control from the get go with crazy sustainability, or they have no real roadmap with use cases. In some situations, those could just be rugs. So you always want to be careful in this environment. And let me just throw that out here. This is a good point to say that. In the past week before I did this video, there have been two node projects, maybe three now, that were rugged. I'm not going to mention all that, the names, but I've seen it. You know, it's unfortunate for people that are in those projects. But the sad thing is nowadays, you can't even guarantee if you have a KYC, a docs, an audit, etc., that you're not going to be rugged on a project. So you have to be careful in this environment to begin with. These are all high risk plays, but that doesn't mean that some of these can't be long term and that they can't actually make you money. So hopefully the sentiment is not completely burnt out for a lot of people. However, I totally get it. There are new things popping up in DeFi. Are nodes just now losing out and they're going to die off for people? I don't know. But I'm still interested in them. I still think they have a capability to find that niche. At the same time, 95% of these, probably more of these node projects aren't even going to exist next year. I know that. That doesn't mean you can't make money on the projects because we're all here to make money in this environment. but there's probably going to be one of these node projects that just makes it, sticks around, and is the node project that made it, that we all hope to be invested in. So, really, with that, I think that's the wrap up for this. I hope this video provided some information, at least my perspective I'm taking on this, and what I see happening with sentiment, with nodes, how they're transitioning, and hopefully where they're going to make us all a little bit of that passive income we're looking for so we can, whatever it is you're looking for, if you're just looking for additional income besides your main job, or if you're looking for a way to stop working your main job and pull in additional profit and eventually be sustainable yourself through these projects. So, whatever it may be, I hope you find success in this environment just like me as I'm looking for that too. If you found this video useful, I'd love you to hit that like button, please. It would greatly help out this video, help me out and the channel out. And if you, again, like the content and you want me to provide more, please hit that sub button to give me some extra support and hit that notification bell so you know when the next project is coming out. With that, hope you all enjoyed the video and have a great day. I will see you next time in the next video.